Hey guys, welcome back to Maelstrom Gaming Studios. I'm Craig, and we have another tournament review for you guys. This time, I brought my Genestealer Cult to an RTT. Went to see how they would do in this 3-round tournament. So stay tuned. I will cover the list I brought, my matchups I played, and a review of the list overall in the end to see how I think I could improve on it, what worked well, what didn't, and so on. So if that all sounds good, do like and subscribe to stay up to date on all of our content here at Maelstrom Gaming Studios. And if you do want to help support us just a little bit more, become a channel member. Those of our channel members, thank you guys. You really are the ones who get us to where we are right now, and we just love to keep growing. So do consider that link down below in the description or the little join button. Now, with all that out of the way, let's dive into today's video. So we'll go over a little bit of a tournament overview. There were 20 players at this tournament, including me. I broke them up into 4 categories. We have the Imperium, have 3 Marines, Assisters, 2 Grey Knights, Guard, and Custodes. Pretty good spread there. Xenos, or Chaos, we had an Emperor's Children and a Death Guard. Xenos, we had a Nid, Genestealer Cult, me, Necron, and an Eldari. And for the Knights, I put them in their own separate category because they were so prominent. There were 3 Chaos Knights and an Imperial Knight. Some other things to note about this tournament is it was standard. We knew our missions ahead of time, so I could kind of plan on that. Totally didn't, but we could have. And it was player-placed terrain. So some terrains had a very nice, healthy amount of terrain and some nice-looking terrain. Others, a little more to be desired, a little sparse on the terrain, but we made do with what we had and working to grow that shop's terrain supply more and more as it is becoming a very popular place to play 40K. So what did I bring? I brought a Twisted Helix battalion and patrol to this tournament. I think, in my opinion, Twisted Helix is the only way you can play and compete the Genestealer cults. Everything, all the other factions or cult creeds are fun. They have some of the best custom cult creed abilities to make a lot of fun things, but a lot of those are more fluffy and okay compared to the Twisted Helix actually puts some good punch onto their high fleet or cult creed. So I brought a Patriarch. He had the 5-up Feel No Pain and the +1 damage. It says damage 3, but really it's damage 3 and damage 4. And a Familiar because of the points. I had a Primus with the Alien Majesty and Meticulous Planner. I had a Magus with the Unwilling Orb and a Familiar as well. For troops, we had 3x10 Neophytes with a Grenade Launcher. We had 2x10 Acolytes, 2 Rock Saws, and a Demo Charge in each of those. These guys typically all started on the board inside trucks to move up, hop out, charge, take the objectives, things like that. 1x10 Acolytes. These were my deep striking Acolytes. They had 4 Rock Saws and they had the Proficient Planning for 3d6, pick 2 out of Deep Strike. With their natural 8-inch Deep Strike, on average, you should make the charge every time. So there's that. And Acolytes, 2 more units of Acolytes, one of them with the 3-inch Deep Strike and Hand Flamers, and another just bare bones 5-man Acolyte squad. For the elites, we had 2 groups of Pure Strains. One had the +1 attack the first round of combat, and the other one had the take a normal move after you reveal them from the blips. In the elite, we had a Nexus with the CP Regen Relic. I thought the CP Regen was nice. The Nexus being able to put out crossfire tokens where I needed to was great. Kellermorph was fun. Didn't do it. He did all right. And I had the Proficient Planning for the Crossfire token and count as exposed and everything for when he pops up. Fast Attack, we had 3 units of Bikers, a 4-man unit, a 5-man unit, and a 6-man unit. And then we had 3 trucks with demolition charges or demolition caches on them. How the games went. The first game was very fluffy. It was against the Star Gods. It was a 71-95 loss. Still, 71 points was pretty good for a loss against the Tyranids, but I learned just how powerful some of the Tyranid stuff was going up against it. I had yet to play against Tyranids, especially with an army like the Genestealer Cult, which have very little protection against them, is nasty. And no more, but that's for another video. He had a Shooty Leviathan list with Heavy Venom Cannon Fexes, Exocrine, Swarmy, Maliceptor, Zoanthropes, Warriors, a group of Hormagaunts, Gargoyles, Death Leaper. Pretty common list, I think. Nothing too crazy. I think Swarmy was the most unique thing about his list, and he did well. So good for Swarmy. I'm happy to see that. Secondaries I took were Engage, Nachman Data, and No Prisoners. No Prisoners was a bit of a poor decision. Had I picked differently, would I have won the game? No. I got 5 points on No Prisoners. Turn 1, I got turn 1 in this game, and it was great. My Genestealers with the pre-game move, or pre-blit move, moved, and then they got to move in advance and charge up the board. Wiped out a unit of his 5 warriors perfectly on the dot, and it was all downhill from there. It was a case, I don't want to blame Dice. He played well, and I played as best as I could, but it was a classic case of hot dice, cold dice. I had a lot of rolls that were just not even close to being average for the results. I had 7 Genestealers with 5 attacks apiece go after a Carnifex with 5 wounds and failed to kill it. And those Genestealers had rerolling ones to hit and wound. So yeah, that was rough. And some of his dice rolls were just phenomenal. I mean, I tried to deny his warp rituals, but he rolled an 11 plus every single time on the warp ritual, and there's nothing I could do about that. I could try, but nothing really I could do. Anyway, that was that game. I scored pretty dang well for the position I was in. Granted, I had very little models by the end of, if any models, by the end of the game. And he had most of his army left, but I had scored as best I could with doing as little damage as I could. Anyway, we'll go into game 2 against the Emperor's Spears, which is the Melee Ultramarines successor chapter. This was a closer game, 79-88 loss. His list was terrifying. 12 Eradicators, which, don't do a ton to Genestealer Cult, but it only takes 2 Eradicators to drop a truck. 3 Redemptor Dreads, a bunch of Assault Marines, Assault Intercessors, and characters. I admit I made a pretty bad mistake turn 1. I tried to turn 1 charge his Eradicators, and I thought I was outside range of his Judicar to put Fight Last on him. I was not. I was a poor mismeasurement. I should have gone into his Assault Intercessors and just cleaned him out and cleaned out his scoring. Would it win me the game? I don't think so, but it would have been nice to have done that instead. Anyway, terrain was light on this board. I was very terrified. I only had like 2 pieces to hide behind, like the size of this, which isn't big, to hide all my stuff behind. For my secondaries, I took Stranglehold because the mission bonus, the tertiary, whatever you want to call it, was all about controlling the center objective. So I figured if I'm going to be going for that to try and get those points, I might as well stack on Stranglehold because it's going to be a win more or a lose more type situation. So I went for Stranglehold, Psychic Interrogation, and Retrieve Nachman Data. Psychic Interrogation proved to be very good. It was a very easy 15 points. My Magus just sat behind a wall, protected, and did that all game on his characters. Nachman Data I did 3 times. I had to forego it one of my turns because I went for Stranglehold instead, and that, points were about the same. Patriarch was the big letdown of that game, and I think this is what would have turned the tide of combat. Is my Patriarch took 4 rounds of combat, or 2 full turns, to wipe out 5 Terminators. Not Thunderhammer Storm Shield Terminators, Power Fist and Stormbolter Terminators. I could not get wounds through, and what wounds I got through, he tanked. I mean, it was like right away, first round, I killed one. And then the next round, I killed another one. And then the next round, I killed another one. And the final round, I killed the last two. Or something, you know, obnoxiously slow like that. So that was a big letdown, because had that Patriarch been able to be done being tied up there, he could have moved on to help out the rest of my stuff, because he was the only thing I had that was at least halfway decent against 3 Redemptors in melee, because all of my stuff was damaged too. So I had to slowly chip away at him, and I mean slowly chip away. Even though he did go up against the Redemptor and had 3 wounds left, and had I killed it, it would have been big, and he failed. I just had to get 1-1-6 on all of my wounds, re-rolling, because that's what the Patriarch does, and I couldn't get 1-6 through to just flat out kill him. So, case of the dice, but still 79-88. You know, you'll see a theme that I'm still scoring really high with the Genestealer Cult. They don't quite have the punch. And finally, in the last game, we played against the Imperial Guard. And first I thought, oh sweet, the Imperial Guard, Genestealer Cult, we can deal with them. And then I looked at his list and the models, and there was so many heavy flamers. It was a wall of infantry, hellhounds, and tank commanders with heavy flamers. I was just like, no, what am I gonna do? I can't charge anything. I could charge 1 unit, turn off its overwatch, but against the guard, you have to charge more than 1 unit a turn in order to do any substantial damage. That's kind of what happened, is I just didn't. Secondaries, I took Banners, Retrieve Knockman Data, and Psychic Interrogation again. Again, Psychic Interrogation was an easy 15 points for me. I could just do it on his tank commanders, no problem. R&D, I did do all those times. He was able to leave a small gap for me in each of his quadrants at some point for me to get those done. Banners, because it was one of the objectives or the missions where you had 1 objective in your home and 2 objectives just outside your deployment zone on a 6 objective game. Banners was good. I got, I think, 10 of the points there. Maybe a little bit more, 10 or 11, but all in all solid there. The biggest downside was the mission prevented pregame or scout moves, which hurt my bikes a lot. They couldn't get up into where I needed them to be to tie in or tie up infantry or tie up other tanks or anything. They got stuck, and there was nothing between, even though it was player-placed terrain, again, light terrain, there's nothing between deploying in the open and deploying to the front line. So they were screwed royally in this game. So when I realized I was up against the wall of death, I really focused on objectives and not killing. It was primarily trading on objectives to remove banners on him or put banners up on me. He had Stranglehold, so I had to try and deny him Stranglehold as best as possible many a times. The only thing that did a lot of killing was the Kellermorph. Dude was an absolute madman going up against guardsmen. I think his kill count had to have been in the 20s of guardsmen he dropped over the course of the game. I mean, the way it was positioned is there's an objective that he needed to hold, and I had a piece of terrain that was, 10 inches from that. So what I would do is my Kellermorph would pop up, pop, kill off a good chunk, if not all of the guardsmen on that, and then he would fall back, hide behind the wall. Couldn't get shot. And then he would pop up again when the next infantry squad moved the objective, and he'd go pop. And with a few extra small arms fire, we're basically just dropping a squad a turn with him. So he did awesome. I failed to get a few key combats that might have actually swung me the game. Again, my 8-inch rerollable or 3d6 8-inch charge on a reroll with a command point failed to get into combat the turn they deep struck. Even the last game, I didn't mention it, but the last game they failed that too the first time. So out of 6 8-inch charges on 3d6, picked the 2 highest because of rerolls, I only made 1 of them, which sucked. But that's the way it was. Still 80 to 89 loss, and again, I didn't kill a whole lot of it. It was purely just scoring. So how do I think the list really fared? It was, if you guys have put together, a nice 0-3 event. Unfortunately, I don't think, do I have that in here? No. So I'll say it right now. I went 0-3, obviously, you can tell that. However, if you go off of points scored in the game, I believe I came in 6th place out of 20. Because I averaged 76 points a game, but I lost all 3 games. So that is what I didn't even get the Wooden Spoon Award for coming in last, because last place only scored like 100 points throughout 3 games. And I had 240 or something like that in 3 games. So that is what it is. How I think the list did. Patriarch, I'm giving him a B+, only because the dice hated him that day. They really did. He should be a lot better. He should be an A, a star, the lead close combat menace of my army. Just the dice said no that day. Primus did well. He gave out his buffs. He killed some guardsmen. I still wish the Primus had a 5-up invuln save, but he doesn't. So he does give off his buffs. And as soon as he tries to fight anything stronger than a guardsman, he just cripples over and dies, which is unfortunate. Magus, A+, casting powers like crazy, denying psychic powers like crazy, and getting me a solid 30 victory points out of all of mine for the game with the psychic powers, or warp ritual specifically. Troop-wise, the Acolyte squads in the trucks, they were fine. I mean, they hit hard. I wish rock saws were better. They only have 2 attacks apiece, and they are strength times 2, so strength 8, 9 with my cult, AP -4, which is awesome, and 2 damage, which is fine against infantry, but against tanks or anything that is reduced damage by 1, like Redemptors, rock saws just fall over. And the other ones, they can, but you're fishing for mortal wounds, or you have minuses to hit, and I don't know. I wish the Genestealer Cult, their mining weapons need just a little bit of a bump up in value, or they need to be cheaper. I don't know which one. I think they just need to do more damage. If the rock saws were damage 3, that would be awesome. But that's that. The Acolytes with the 3-inch deep strike, they were good. However, I did quickly learn that I don't want to put heavy flamers on the 3-inch deep strike, because I would rather use their deep strike to do Nachman data and not actually flame. So that was 15 points in my list wasted, because I never did any flaming. I only did Nachman datas. That is kind of what it is. Good to know for a second iteration of this list. The 1 unit of 5 Acolytes who just pop in and do whatever they need to do. Typically it was maybe another Nachman data, maybe hold a backfield objective, maybe just screen a character or something. Loved them. They're perfect. A for them. The 3x10 Neophytes, they didn't do a whole lot. They rode in the trucks and they threw the demolition caches and they moved out to take middle objectives. In my future iterations of this list, I will probably knock that down to just 1 or 2 squads, just because I did feel like one of the squads always was not really doing anything. One squad was screening characters and they did great. One squad was moving up to my secondary home objective that you normally claim, and that was fine, but the 3rd squad just didn't have a role, I kind of figured. So probably cut them out and put in just 5 more Acolytes instead. Genestealers. Pre-game moves 1, awesome. Genestealers with +1 attack, awesome. The Nexus, I think he was good. His ability, again, to put a crossfire token on whatever unit I wanted to was great. I did one of 2 things. One, it was if I needed to turn off Overwatch on a unit, I would do that because we have the 1 CP to do that. The other one is if I had a whole bunch of demolition charges ready to throw on one model, I would crossfire that model and give all of those demolition charges a chance to hit better or potentially immediately be exposed. Killer Morph was good. Good. I kind of missed not having his damage 3 shots. That would have helped killing off some Space Marines or some characters and stuff. But, you know, he killed some characters. He killed Death Leaper. he killed the Judicar, and he killed a bunch of guardsmen. So, you know, I'm happy with his results. I wish he was a few points cheaper, but I'm happy with his results. Bikes. Bikes did fine. They did exactly what I need them to do. They're cheap. They do screening. They distract. They get Nachman data. And the trucks, I think they did fine as well. Maybe I would drop one truck, but I do like having that initial, okay, everything hide inside the truck to protect you for a turn just in case. Or, even more so, that 3 extra inches you get when you get out of a truck can be a world of a difference for Genestealers or charging Acolytes. Because now, with the Cult Creed I have with +1 move, I put 10 Genestealers inside of one of those trucks. You get 3 inches out. You get an 8-inch move 3 inches out, a standard 8-inch move, but you get +1. So you get 12 inches out of that truck, plus D6 for an advance, and then another 2d6 for charging. So, I very much love the trucks. They're cheap. They still can do some damage with the demolition caches, and they protect my combat infantry for a turn or two. So that is about how I changed my list. Again, like I said, I struggle with reduced damage by 1 from things like Redemptors and Carnifexes. I didn't play Death Guard, but gosh, I would not want to play Death Guard with the Genestealer Cult. That would be a nightmare to deal with. I struggle with what to put in my list to kill those bigger tanks or high toughness models like Carnifex. We have Aberrants, but there are so many points for such little attacks, and they're not super accurate, and they can't really be buffed or anything. So I don't know. I wish, and we know the points by the time recording this, we know the point changes for the Genestealer Cult, and it's nothing. It's nothing at all. So that's a huge disappointment. Aberrants really needed to go down 5 points a model or gain an attack each. But without it, they're sitting in a sad place. Anything else I'll change? I might find a way to stick in another unit of Genestealers. And I'll definitely have to bring this down into just a battalion, because we know with the changes now, this list would not survive in the current iteration of Warhammer 40k with the CP changes. It just wouldn't work. So I got to find a way to get down into just a battalion with this list. Probably run 5 units of Acolytes and 1 unit of Neophytes, and try and fit in 3 units of Pure Strains. It might be able to be done. I have to play around. I think I can figure it out. But yeah, so that's the Genestealer Cult. It is okay if you guys go 0-3 in tournament. You got to use it as a learning process. This was the first time since I started going to tournaments that I went a big 0-3 ever. I've normally, except for the first tournament I went to, I normally always have gotten 1 win, if not 2, or winning. But this one was a bit sad to do so well scoring wise, but get destroyed still every game. So that's what we learned. We'll bring the Genestealer Cult out on the channel for a 2,000 point game. You just saw our 1,000 point game. I will tune this list to be better for 2,000 points, and we'll show them off on the channel sometime. That's all we got for you guys. Thank you guys for watching. If you are a big Genestealer Cult fan, let us know how you've been faring with them in this edition. I know they are not the best army right now. With all the changes that have been shaken up in the most recent chapter approved and the data slate, I would argue Genestealer Cult are the weakest of the 9th edition codexes right now. Yeah, Necrons have seen enough of a buff, and so have Death Guard. So I think Genestealer Cult, they're at a pretty weak spot. Unfortunately, it's going to be 3 months before we see any potential changes to them. Will those come? Who knows? But I'm going to quit the rambling there. Thank you guys for watching, and we'll catch you next time here at Maelstrom Gaming Studios.